right, Matt. We are back once again, season four, episode five now. We are about a month into the NFL season. Um, I don't even know if I want to cover the NFL this season for the Dolphins, but we'll get to that later. Um, at least the Cowboys got back on track, thank goodness, against Daniel Jones and the Giants. Um, Still not pretty, I would say.
Why I had a
Um,
stoic face.
Yeah, not pretty, but you know what? Like we'll probably get to later in this pod. NFL this season, I feel like we've been saying this every season for like the past five seasons or something. But this year especially, like there's like people like to do tiers of like NFL teams, right? Like the Super Bowl contenders and the kind of like middle of the pack teams and then these bottom teams. Like so far through 1 month, I don't think I've felt this, confused about where each of these teams land because it really has been a week by week scenario for almost every team,
Honestly.
honestly. So and it like you look at Kansas City, they're 4-0, but they haven't really been impressing anyone. And then you look at some of the other teams, like you don't expect the Raiders to be 2-2 when they had to play Baltimore and all that kind of stuff. Like even Carolina,
Vikings.
the Vikings 4-0, arguably the best looking team so far. I mean, they've beaten good, high quality teams so far. Niners, Texans, Packers, but like I said, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but just really like the I guess predictions. I'm lost this year. Like if we were doing predictions, I'd be cooked every week. So anyway, with that being said, Matt, like I said earlier, the Cowboys get an ugly win, but a win nonetheless. Much needed to keep pace with the surprising Commanders, who are first in the division. So I don't know, Matt. How'd you feel? I'm sure you're not ecstatic, but at least you're not feeling as bad as I am today. So
Well, I would say the expectations now, as of the current state of the teams for us, maybe a little bit different just in terms of who's playing, meaning the quarterback. But, I'll just leave it at that for you. But yeah, I mean, Cowboys beat the Giants. Am I supposed to jump for joy with that? Like, I don't think so. Maybe if we won 40 to nothing like we did a season ago or last Thanksgiving when we put a demolition on them, then I can get, or maybe two Thanksgivings ago, sorry. But then I can get a little excited. But to come down really to the wire against the football giants, it's nothing to really jump for joy. And the thing that's sad about it is I kind of saw more bad than good things in this game. Like we won just because we're just a little bit better. We had a little bit better play at the quarterback position. And maybe we got lucky with an injury because Malik Neighbors um, was knocked out late in the game. Who knows if he stays into the game? Can the Giants rally, miraculously at the end? But that's a huge loss. But, the ugly, I think, was outweighed, but I'll say the good stuff. There was a couple good things that I saw. One, our best player, possibly, number 88, CD Lamb. Rough week against the Ravens. He was throwing his teammates under the bus, but he came back this week. It wasn't a vintage, 13, 14 catch, 150-yard game. But what I liked about it was at least he set the tone early. Like Dallas came out and said, "You were not yourself the week before. We're going to get you going early." And I thought, Dak was looking for him early. They get him the ball, get him touches. They get him touches out of the backfield, which is a good wrinkle to have, I think, just to get him in the flow of the game. And then obviously, he scores that long 55-yard touchdown, kind of just doing what CD does, right? Goes up, makes a play for the ball. over a guy and then outruns the defense and takes it to the house. So that's the good with CD, I think. But really outside of that blimp in the first quarter, really the first half, second half wasn't too good. I mean, we didn't score an offensive touchdown. I think we stopped going to CD where we should have gotten it going, but at least he was able to do enough this game. But now it's about sustaining that. Can we keep CD going the entire game now? He had a great first half, quiet second half. So we need to just build on that, kind of get him going. I'm hoping that he's kind of getting back into football shape from the holdout with his contract, but that's going to be, only time will tell for that. But, there was a couple other things defensively I thought was good. The one thing I thought was really good, and I guess I could say shocking, or I guess disappointing if you're a Giants fan. We allowed 26 yards rushing, which is honestly, I would not have expected that. I would have thought the Giants would have ran for at least 120 yards. Daniel Jones maybe can use his legs a little bit. And with the way Singletary was playing recently, I was like, okay. I mean, I don't think he's going to be Kamara or Derrick Henry type of a explosion, but he's going to have, 4 or 5 yards a pop and just kind of slowly gash us. Nah, we hauled him 24 yards for Singletary and then 26 as a team. So I don't know if that's bad coaching or not, which I think it is by the Giants. I mean, it's not like we were just running out to a 28-0 lead and you have to abandon the run game. I mean, it was really a 1-2 score game the entire way. So for the Giants to kind of, I guess, take their foot off the gas a little bit in the run game, it's kind of just bad coaching. But at the same time, I have to give credit where credit is due. Anytime you hold a team to 26 yards rushing, that makes you a little bit easier to defend as an offense. So Dallas was able to kind of prey on that. Not the sack numbers I was expecting though, but that's a start that we can build on. But really, outside of that, it's kind of all I got for the good. I mean, the bad really I thought was outweighed. The penalties, gosh, I don't know what it is with Mike McCarthy led teams. We always lead the league in penalties every single season. This game was no further. We had another 11 penalties, which is totally undisciplined. Defensively, I mentioned, yeah, we stopped the run, but we didn't look very good. We start Andrew Booth. I think he's a former Viking who was traded this season earlier in the offseason for Nashawn Wright. He starts for Kalen Carson, who was out. He was getting absolutely cooked by Malik Neighbors. I think first play of the game, he broke his ankles. I mean, on a double move, it was a little sluggo. So kind of embarrassing. But that was just bad. And then the tackling, my goodness. Trayvon Diggs, I mean, he's supposed to be a guy that we can trust and rely on, but I don't know if it's the recovery from the ACL injury, but there's no physicality to his game that he's missing. I mean, he's not making tackles in space. And really, as a team, I don't think we're tackling very well. Just not a physically imposing defense that we've been, at least over the last few years. But I will say this, and I did forget to mention this about a positive. Mozzie Smith probably had his best game. Numbers-wise, wasn't eye-popping, but he was in there. I could see him in the TV, flashing, kind of breaking up the runs. So that plays a part to why the Giants have 26 yards rushing. So I got to give credit where credit is due. DeMarvion Overshawn, another guy, had a good game. I think he's going to be a player for us. The speed that he has is pretty ridiculous. So we got some good things, but then, yeah, like I said, the tackling as a whole, as a team, it's pretty bad. So that was happening. And then I look at the thing that was really frustrating, and I was venting, was at the end of the game. So Dallas, I'm thinking, okay, we got the stop, defense holds, we're going to run out the clock. And, Mike McCarthy at that time doesn't do anything stupid. Giants have no timeouts. They run the ball 3 straight times. I have no problem with that. We can run it down to about, 30 seconds and then kick a field goal with Brandon Aubrey. Third down, we call a run play. And then I see on the TV, Brandon Aubrey is like kind of trotting out to take the kick. And I'm thinking in my head, why is he like, oh my God, what is he doing? Like, he's like rushing. And I just look at the operation. It's like everyone's trying to get set, angers the holder. He's just like, okay, you ready? You good? You good? Like, clock's going down. 7, 6, 5. I'm thinking in my head, why are you not taking a timeout? Mike McCarthy talking to you. You got 3 timeouts. Why are you gonna send your kicker out there to rush to kick the ball when time is on your side? You can run this clock all the way down, take a timeout, and then tell Brandon Aubrey, okay, take your time, get set, knock this kick down. Don't run out there 15 seconds on the clock and have to just set up and rush the operation. Sure enough, he misses the kick. You know, it was a 50-yarder. That's a chip shot for Brandon Aubrey in this case, but in reality, that's still a far kick. Like, that's bad coaching. Like, you give now that you miss the kick, the Giants have a relatively decent chance of, okay, you can at least get into Hail Mary range to throw up a jump ball. So could you imagine if the Cowboys lost because of that? Like, that is inexcusable. That's how you lose playoff games. That's like, I don't think you should be accepting that as a GM. I'm talking to you, Jerry, because you're the GM. Like, you can't just accept that or let it go because, oh yeah, we won the game. But it's like, how are you looking when you play these games? Like, the sloppiness, the we're not physical. We can't run the ball. We look at Derrick Henry. We could have signed. He's going off crazy now. Like, we just don't have any physical edge to this team, and Mike McCarthy is still just kind of lost in space. So, and to make matters worse, our injury bug is now hitting us. Micah Parsons gets hurt late. He's now out 2 to 4 weeks, so he's probably going to miss the next 2 games with our bye week coming up in 2 weeks. So that's kind of an advantage, I guess, for us because we don't have to put him on IR. He'll miss just 2 games and then he can come back for, I believe it's going to be San Francisco. But we lose DeMarcus Lawrence now. He's out for 1 to 2 months. So he's on IR. That was announced today. So there's just so many things going wrong right now. And with the ability now, we lose our 2 best pass rushers. Teams might just have all day to throw on us. So I'm a little worried going into Pittsburgh. I was thinking before the season it was going to be a cakewalk, but now not so much because I know the Steelers, they lost, but that defense, that culture is still there. If Justin Fields is kind of running around, making plays with his legs, that's going to be a problem for us. Because I don't want Dak needing to play hero ball the entire game at Pittsburgh. But nonetheless, I think it's a little bit concerning for me. But I will say this is a huge game for us because we go into a stretch where we play the Lions, the 49ers, and the Falcons, and then the Eagles in 4 weeks after our bye week, or for the Lions, then a bye week. But 4 straight teams, potentially playoff bound teams. So you kind of need to go 3-2 going into that just to give you some kind of hope if you want to make a playoff push, obviously. But going 2-3 and then going into that tough slate of games, which I can only pray that you come out 2-2 if you're really, really, really lucky. Like, that's a tough ask for me. So I think next week is really the must win, kind of that point of the season where we say, okay, is this team gonna be a playoff contender or not? I think it's this Pittsburgh game coming up. So a lot is on the line and we're down a couple key players. So I am a little worried. I am not gonna lie. Because I know Dak's gonna get blamed if we lose. I'll just say that. But yeah, not all is well in my world, believe it or not, even though it's 2-2 and everybody's kind of in this middle of the pack, in the NFL, but it just doesn't feel like a positive 2-2 right now.
Well, at least you are 2-2. All right, I'll say
You're
that
right. You're right.
because I mean, do you have anything else you want to say about your Cowboys?
No,
Um,
I mean, it was a pretty disgusting game, honestly. So, I mean, like, there's not that much I can build up. Like, outside of the CD touches early, but yeah, we hold him to 26 yards rushing, but everything else just was not good. Like, at least our red zone defense, we held him to 3 points. But if that's any other quarterback than Daniel Jones, I guarantee they score you at least one or two touchdowns and we lose the game. Like, that's the nature of the game, I think, is the quarterback play. So we got lucky that we played Daniel Jones.
yeah, I wish we could play Daniel Jones twice a year too, but um, I guess not everyone can be so
Hey,
lucky.
we played Daniel Jones on Thanksgiving this year, so I'm hoping my food will taste good.
Mm, yeah, definitely gonna be sour if you lose to Daniel Jones
No,
on Thanksgiving.
I will not be eating my Thanksgiving food.
Yeah.
Nope.
All right. Um, well, I guess that means I have to talk about the Dolphins, even though I really probably do not want to do that because I was listening to the game
That was
and watching the
disgusting.
game, and I didn't think it could get any worse from last week, and it just like was torture watching this Dolphins. You know what? I'm gonna say I don't even want to say team because let's get real. It's the offense. The offense without Tua is I can't even believe it. It's the most unwatchable offense in the entire league. Like honestly, I'd Bo Nix and the Broncos. Bo Nix threw for 60 yards on Sunday, man. And I would probably have rather watched that offense than what the Dolphins put out tonight because I, first of all, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Tyler Huntley, right? Tyler Huntley comes in and gets a start. I know a lot of Dolphins fans were excited about it. Some of my friends that are Dolphins fans were excited about it. And I was on here last week, Matt, saying that, yeah, it's great, but hey, our offense is this timing based offense, right? Where we throw into these windows in the middle of the field. That's where Tua has been so good over the past 3 years, right? Hitting Tyreek, hitting Jalen Waddle over the middle, over like past the linebackers, in front of the safeties, in between the hashes or in between the numbers, right? I said that and I just said like it's tough for any quarterback, I don't care who you are, to come into this type of system where everything is so reliant on timing and execute it to the level that it needs to be at in order to be successful. Like it's not an offense where you take a 5 step drop back and you're hoping your receivers are either going to find a hole in the zone or win their one-on-one matchup. Like that's just not how the offense is based, right? It's all about timing. So that means receivers have to run their route at a certain speed, right? Because if it's a play action, for example, and our receiver is running too fast, right? Like he's gonna run past the window before the quarterback's ready to throw. So it's like little nuances like that where it really is reliant on all 11 players on the offense executing their position, you know, at the same time. And that's a hard thing to facilitate, especially with all the pre snap motion, the alignments, and everything that the Dolphins like to do, which is why I said I think probably Tim Boyle is going to be better because he's been here a little bit longer. He knows the system just a little bit more. And how much is Mike McDaniel going to change this offense in the matter of a week to incorporate Tyler Huntley's legs? Like we barely saw that tonight because they're not, I mean, they called a couple quarterback draws, but is that like is that really that much better than having a quarterback that can facilitate the offense a little bit more? I don't know. I don't know. I really thought that it was going to be tough for him coming in tonight. I know a lot of people had high hopes, but I just really think one more week would have been good, but I understand they probably needed a boost offensively. At least you get a little bit more of the mobility from the quarterback position with him. But man, like I don't know where they go from here because it's one thing to have the quarterback play. Um, I can't even fault him too much just because a lot of the play calling, it's short, quick, screens. And then by the second half, Tennessee was sniffing it out. Like they know what was coming. And so you can't run the ball, first of all, which I don't understand because Mike McDaniel's supposed to be part of that Shanahan tree.
Yeah,
And
you gotta have the creative run game, right?
exactly, right? And so where is the creative run game? Is it our offensive line is that bad? Is it teams have figured out we only want to get to the edge? Like we don't have that. Like I know Raheem's not a power back by trade, but he can run in between the tackles. And don't get me wrong, Devon. Hey, he is dynamic when he gets the ball in his hands in space, but he's a little, on the lighter side. So he's gonna fall down a little bit easier, I think, when he runs in between the tackles when there's so much, mass going around there in the trenches. So I think not having Raheem is a big part right now. Jeff Wilson was got hurt during warmups, so it's Devon Achan and Jalen Wright, but like the lack of the run game, and just how stagnant and you know by the second half, it just felt like the offense was checked out. It was still a game, right? It was 9-3, but it's just like they had no faith. It felt like they had no confidence. And it wasn't until the fourth quarter when the game is practically over that Tyler Huntley either starts figuring out the timing to Tyreek and Waddle a little bit, or Mike finally just said, screw it, we're gonna just run the offense anyway. But either way, like it has to be a collective thing. Mike has to be able to call plays that he can trust that Tyler Huntley or whoever's out there at quarterback is gonna be able to execute because whatever they've put out the past 3 weeks, quite frankly, is disgusting and disturbing. You know, so something's got to change there. I don't even know what you do, but to at least some of the receivers credit, like Tyreek, he was open like twice that game, um, for potential touchdowns on deep passes, and Tyler Huntley, he just missed them, but we know how hard it is to throw Tyreek down the field. We saw it with Tua his first year. A lot of these underthrown balls that Tyreek has to come back for. But, after some time, hopefully, I don't know if a week is going to be enough time. But yeah, it's just not looking good right now. I don't know how much 1 week is going to help, but huge, huge game. Like I would arguably say this is our season in a nutshell. This next game, because you're sitting 2-3 versus 1-4 with how tight the AFC is right now. It's night and day, right? Like, luckily, there's teams like Cincinnati and Cleveland, and that are 1-3, as well. So it kind of helps out a little bit. But at this point, Denver and Oakland or Denver and Las Vegas are better suited to make the playoffs than the Dolphins, which is sad, right? But I think there's a big game coming up against the Patriots at home. Like
You got to win
this,
down
this is a
if you want
must.
to make a chance.
This
Yeah.
is a must win. And like, I don't know if Mike has anything, saved in the bag, but I don't even care. Like, pull out all the stops. I think that the one thing as a fan I will say watching was just the lack of creativeness that it's a little disappointing coming from Mike McDaniel, honestly.
Hey, that's how I feel every week.
Right. But I mean, Mike, that's kind of what it's his bread and butter, right? The creativeness, the uniqueness. Like literally about a year ago, right? When they played Denver. I don't know if you remember, but Tua is having these no look shovel passes with his right hand to Devon Achan. And it's like you look at like things like that and go, oh my gosh,
They look like
wow,
the
that's
Chiefs.
yeah, so creative and so flashy. And we haven't seen any of that this year. And it's just a little disappointing, I would say, because I like Mike a lot, but I think he's got to figure it out. Like this is the week. The Patriots, I still don't think they're a good team, but they do have a good defense. If I'm betting, I'm taking the under. Like I think it's gonna be an ugly, ugly game.
And 6.
Like if there's even a touchdown. I'm talking like 9, like 6 to 9. So I don't know, but something has to change, and I do have to tip my cap to the defense though. Keeping this team in the game for that long, forcing Will Levis to turn the ball over, or just I mean, just play defense, and Will Levis will give you one, right? So, but for them to keep fighting, honestly, I suffered and I followed the game throughout. I didn't even check on the other game, but at least the defense from following that, they didn't quit. And there's a lot of teams, a lot of players that are going to quit when the offense is doing absolutely nothing. But I got to say, I got to tip my cap to the defense. Jalen Ramsey, Zach Sealer, these guys are still playing hard. Jalen Phillips, who got banged up again, he's still out there giving it his all every snap. I would say probably the last drive of the game, they kind of threw in the towel, but the game was, way out of hand already. But yeah, so I will tip my cap there. But yeah, Matt, we're in trouble and must win scenario to keep the playoffs alive, which is kind of sad at this point. But
Yeah, well, you guys need to figure out, I guess, what kind of system or scheme that you're gonna go with going forward. Because I mean, I think it's either Hunley or Boyle. But if you go with Hunley, like I said, I thought that was better going in because at least he gives you kind of that. I mean, he's not Lamar Jackson, let's be real, but something like that. And I'm thinking, okay, Mike McDaniel, maybe you can cook up something. He's an offensive minded coach, kind of play to Tyler's strengths, I think, because at least we saw what Skylar Thompson and Tim Boyle did with the game that you went to. It wasn't pretty. So it's like, could you be any worse? Like, let's just at least see what Tyler Huntley can do. And I think to Mike's to go against what Mike McDaniel did, it's like, okay, and you said this too. It's more they're trying to make it like it's still Tua's offense. Like I think you gotta wrinkle it a little bit and adapt to what your quarterback can do best. I think that's what makes good OCs, or I should say offensive minded coaches, like that's why they're so good, is they can adapt to what their quarterback does the best. So I think, yeah, you want to keep the structure of your offense, but the read options, the quarterback runs, like heck, Tyler Huntley, if you got to run like 13, 15 times a game, if that's what it takes, do it. Like that's just what you got to do now to win games. It has to be different. I'm looking at the box score. HN had 15 yards rushing. Like that's not gonna work.
don't look
How
at the
are you
box
gonna
score. Don't
how are
look.
you gonna get him involved, with Hunley? Read options, RP, like there's different ways to get him the ball, I think. But that's where I think now you guys need to make a decision because you have film on everybody. You got Skylar Thompson, you got Tim Boyle, you got Hunley. Who is it gonna be now? Because now it's like okay, you just push all your chips in the middle. You go with one guy, and you just gotta kind of ride it out for another 2 games at least. I think, but I don't know. Tyler Huntley experiment not so good after the first one. So you're the Dolphins guy, you're the expert, but that's just my saying. I think you gotta incorporate a little bit to what the quarterback does best, even if it's not what Tua does.
That's 100% true. Like you're not gonna have Lamar Jackson run the same offense as Tom Brady, right? Like
Mhm.
that's just not going to fit his strengths. Um, so I definitely think there will be adjustments, but I'm talking like literally tonight. Mike has to go home because you only have 5 days, right? Essentially to implement something. If we're being serious, it's really like four because we play Monday night, so it's a short week,
You
right?
get off day tomorrow,
Yeah.
so
So
back on
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And Saturday is always walkthrough, right? At least you're at home. But I'm just gonna say like he needs to figure out literally tonight what are we gonna do? Are we going to try and run our system because we believe in the system? If so, I'm sorry, but I think Tim Boyle is a better option to go.
That's fair.
But if we're gonna say, we need the dynamic playmaking ability of Tyler Huntley, then exactly what you said. We need to incorporate some of that into the offense, right? Like I can't watch another RPO check down to the back in the flat and they're swallowed instantly because the defense knows what's coming. I don't know how many times they're going to run those types of plays, and they're cool and all, but we're only getting like 2-3 yards a pop, and we're sitting there at 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, and we're not pushing the ball down the field, and it's like what is this the same Miami Dolphins team as last year? So yeah, I think Mike needs to figure it out tonight. Like, what are we gonna do? Are we going with Tyler? Are we going with Tim Boyle? And we have to hammer it home this week at practice. So if I had to pick one right now, I'd still probably lean towards Tyler Huntley just a little bit because I think he did show some flashes today that he can hit the windows. It's probably not going to be at the same level as Tua, but towards the end of the game, there were flashes, and give him a little bit more time. Tyreek was breaking open on a couple balls there too. So,
That's
I
your
don't.
advantage. You got Tyreek, you got Waddle, you got speed on the outside. So not a lot of teams can say they have that luxury of weaponry on their offensive side of the ball.
Okay, but yeah, I still have faith. I'm going to keep the faith for now, Matt. But if they lose to New England, I think it's over. I like genuinely. I think the season might be over. Even if they win out from their like, even if they lose one more game, right, and they're sitting at 11-5, Buffalo looks really good. So is that going to be enough? They'd have to win out essentially to make the playoffs if they're sitting at 1-4. So
It's tough.
it's gonna be real tough. I mean, it's still not impossible. We know what happened. They were 1-6 that last year with Flores, and they win 8 straight, and then just fail to make the playoffs. So anything is possible, I will say. But I just remember saying the beginning half of the season was the easy part of the schedule.
Hey, but we
Oh
didn't
no,
know that it's gonna be injury prone
yeah,
or
yeah. But
I was
that's
I
what I
was
was
lied
saying.
to by
That's
my
what I was
coaching
saying.
staff and owners that we did not know that. We did not know that.
Okay. Well, I'm done talking about the Dolphins. It's gonna make me sick. So I just want to pose this one question really quick to you, Matt, before we transition to college football. And I know I already talked about it last week, but I'm just curious to get your take on this because like I kind of stated earlier, the NFL this season, I don't know if talent is just, evenly distributed now across the league, or is if quarterback play is down, or defenses are just better, or they're taking away the deep shots, or what's going on. But it just feels like this year a lot of the teams are as close in, I don't want to say skill, maybe talent and scheme or coaching levels, but it just doesn't feel like there's a ton of teams that are really above or really below this year. Like, on paper, I look at a team like Denver or the Raiders, right? Or the Jags, to be honest. Like, are they how bad are they? Like I can't. The Jags are 0-4, so you'd think they're terrible, but they got Trevor Lawrence, who just got paid a whole bunch of money. They got, Christian Kirk and Brian Thomas looks good. Travis Etienne, I still think is a solid back. So what is it, Doug Peterson? Is it the defense? Like, I don't know what's going on with this team, but they can't seem to win a game so far. But are they as bad on paper as, let's say, the Panthers who have a win? I don't know, but I'm not sure what it is, Matt. But it just feels like this year the unpredictability of games week to week now is higher than it's ever been. I don't know if you think you know why, or you have any thoughts as to why that is.
I guess that if you say unpredictability, I would say part of it is due to I think the coaching in the NFL. I think a lot of the coaching now it's offensive minded guys getting hired and they're implementing their scheme. And I hate to say it, but it's like the Shanahan tree, they're kind of sprinkling around. They're just kind of they're all over the place in the NFL. Like this year now, the Saints, for example, Cowboys, I was thinking, oh man, the Saints were so mid last year. Derek Carr, oh yeah, last time he was good was like what 5 years ago. Turns out it's like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize they got a guy from the Shanahan tree at OC, and they're running the same offense that we couldn't stop for years. So I think it's a little bit of coaching with all these teams. Offensive minded coaches are now kind of taking over the NFL. I think because that's the way the game is now. You got to be able to score and put up points. Because I think now it's so hard for defenses to get stops. It's like if you touch a receiver, it's pass interference. Unless you're the Chiefs, you can get away with anything. But then everybody else, pass interference, holding. I mean, it's just like there's so many things that defensively it's hard to do now with honestly the level of talent I think now is it's pretty even with the guys coming out in college. Um it's tough, I think. I think that's the thing. And then obviously I think quarterback play it's I don't want to say it's even, but you have whatever our tier list is. We can rank it however it is, Mahomes, Allen, whoever we think is on that top tier. If you put quarterback, every quarterback, about 80, maybe 75% would all be in some kind of middle tier, I think, realistically. If you have three tiers, you're going to have a couple guys at the top, your bottom dwellers, Daniel Jones, and then everybody else. I think honestly, that's what it is now. Everybody's finding their franchise guy. And if you found a franchise guy, theoretically, you can compete with anybody. So I'm looking at these teams. Maybe the only anomaly is the Jaguars right now, I think, which is weird because they paid the big bucks. And then I don't know, the wins aren't happening. But even a guy like Jalen Hurts, he looks terrible, but he's still their franchise guy. Offensive minded coaches, like they're still competing in a way. And then the Bengals, yeah, they're 1-3, but hey, you got Joe Burrow. They're still putting up numbers. Like they're in games. Like I think they could easily be 3-1 if you look at who they played and how they finished games. So I just think it's a little bit of mixing of that. It's the coaching, and then everybody kind of has their franchise quarterback in a sense. So if you have your guy, you can compete in the NFL. That's the key. If you have a quarterback, you can compete.
Um, yeah, I guess it's the quarterback. It's got to be. I don't know. I see. I haven't figured it out, so that's why I wanted to ask you because it
But we
just
can't. I don't know if we ever will figure it out, honestly, because it's
it's
so.
just like, yeah, you're
Two
right.
weeks, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the Ravens. Oh my gosh, they're screwed. They're 0-2. Like, look at I was saying, oh my gosh, they got tough schedule. They got Dallas, Buffalo, Cincinnati. How are they going to win games? 2 weeks later, we're talking, oh, well, the Ravens, they look really good.
Yeah,
Derrick
now they
Henry,
look
he's
really
running
good.
over. They look like they're hit their stride. They're gonna make a run now. It's like, I don't know. I'm almost like tired of predicting. Like sometimes we look really, really stupid with the things that we say because we like to jump the gun a lot on this podcast.
Eh,
And we get backfired kind of a lot. Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong.
hey man, that's the nature of the business. It is what it is. But
You can't predict sports.
exactly.
Never will. Trevor
Okay.
Lawrence, though, that's the one outlier
Like
now. I would say
and it's not that like I'm not a big Trevor Lawrence fan, but I don't think he's terrible. But to
he's
be
just in the
paid,
middle
but yeah, but right, but if you're gonna get that kind of money, you can't be 0-4. Like, I'm sorry. Even Joe Burrow found a way to get a win. You know, it
against the
was against
Panthers.
Panthers, but he's not sitting at 0-4. And I don't know. Are they even gonna win their next game? I mean, they play the Colts, and now that Joe Flacco's there, is it a better offense, I dare say, without Anthony Richardson, who's been not so good through 4 weeks, right? So I don't know. It's just the unpredictability of the season so far. But that's why you gotta love football, right? Because it's any given Sunday. Um,
And that's why we still have hope in our teams.
yep, that's true.
That's why you play
But
the game.
yeah, with that being said, Matt, I think we will transition over to college football. So Oregon took on UCLA. I'm pretty sure Oregon won, right?
Yep. It wasn't
So
pretty though. Wasn't pretty. It
yeah, I
was it
mean, we
was
can talk
it
about
was
that.
looking pretty. So start of the game, we're moving up and down the field like how Oregon should. Obviously, UCLA, they have one win against the lowly team from Hawaii. Um, they did not look good at all. But at the end of the first half, Oregon's driving. We're up 28-3 in the red zone. Chance to score another touchdown. Dylan Gabriel throws a not like a 95-yard pick six. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I wasn't thinking, oh, we're gonna lose the game, but it's just like, man, just to see it's a 14-point swing right there. You can go up 35-3. You're basically putting the nail in the coffin already. UCLA is gonna give up, but it's like 28-10. Okay, UCLA is gonna get the ball back to start the second half. Maybe they have, kind of that delusional feeling. Okay, yeah, we're right back in this game. We score a touchdown. You know, we can stay in this. And they were just kind of hanging around. And then Oregon didn't look crisp in the second half. I think they were just kind of going through the motions. Um, their guys made plays. Tez Johnson was unguardable. Jordan James ran the ball well, but yeah, I'm just kind of disappointed in how they finished the game. I think that needs to be better. And obviously, if you play a better team like Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, those guys in the Big Ten, you're going to have to play a full game of football. And luckily, they played UCLA at the right time. So, not a really impressive win, but I don't know. We'll see how it is going forward. I think next week they play Michigan State at home on a short week on a Friday night. So, we'll see how it happens. They did lose Terrence Ferguson. I don't know if he has yeah, he took a pretty bad hit. He might be out for some time. I didn't read anything further, but yeah, that's a huge loss for us, especially in the run game with his blocking. But yeah, it's UCLA. UH almost beat them. I'm sorry, UCLA. You guys are gonna be struggling in the Big Ten, man. Struggling. It does not look good for you guys.
Yeah, they do not look very good.
Yeah, Garbers
Um,
look terrible. Look terrible.
all
So
right.
they need a quarterback. You don't
Yeah,
have a quarterback, you can't win.
that's very true. Um, Speaking of winning, the two probably most winning college football teams over the past several years went up against each other. UC or University of Alabama and Georgia, always a classic when those two teams play. Um, and man, what a crazy game it was. And I think it got so much viewership because it was like one of those standalone games, right? But man, I turned off the game. You took a nap.
I took a nap.
So did not see, the the score that ended up happening coming. But I don't know. Like to me, what can you say about these two teams? Like they're gonna be there. I think both these teams are gonna be there at the end again. Luckily with the 12 team format, I don't think it'll be a problem for either of these two teams. They'll probably still both finish in the top five when it's all said and done. I wouldn't be surprised. But I mean, just the big takeaways from this one, Matt. For me, like Alabama, their offense looks in like it can be explosive at times. And so I don't think they're ever gonna have a problem there. The only question is I think the defense, their secondary is a little bit young, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so but it'll take some time, but I think they'll be okay. But then Georgia on the flip side, yes, they did end up losing the game, and yes, they looked really bad for a bulk of it. But I think at the same time, this is one of those games where we don't want to call them moral victories, but to be down that much on the road and for your team not to quit, I just think it speaks volumes to what Kirby Smart has instilled in that program, as well as, Carson Beck had a rough first half. But for him to come back and, start slinging it like he was in that second half, got to tip my cap to him because they look good. Finally, we're able to move the ball some more in that second half. So, yeah, these two teams are going to be good. But man, what an insane stretch of football in that last game by these two teams, Matt. And I mean, pick a player you want to talk about, but I think the number one guy we got to talk about is Ryan Williams. I mean, the kid is 17, like kid. He's literally not even an adult yet. He's still a minor. He's 17 years old going up against the top collegiate athletes in the country, right? Georgia DBs. Those are some of
Malachi
the
Starks,
those are the
NFL corner right there.
best DB and ready now, right? And here's this kid, 17 years old. Like imagine how much more athletic he's gonna get. He's only 17. Imagine when he grows into his body. Like I scary thought already to be one of the best players in the country as a true freshman at 17 years old, soaking wet. Like I I don't
You know,
know.
he
Baffles me.
reminds me of like Amari Cooper at Alabama. And I think that's just saying him now, like how he is as a 17-year-old. I think, he has to play another 2 years after this before he can declare, if I'm assuming he would go to the NFL, but another 2 seasons after this. So obviously you're going to grow into the body, you're going to lift weights, you're going to get stronger, faster. I don't know. I think sky's the limit for this guy. Man, he's dangerous. But right now, I look at him, it's like, man, this looks like I see a mini Amari Cooper at
Just
Alabama.
so
Like,
smooth.
yeah,
Like
that's
how
the
he
thing.
runs. He just
It's
kind
like
of
Amari Cooper, a
glides.
true technician.
Yeah. At 17 to be that, like, that's baffling to me.
Yeah, it's Amari Cooper. It's like a Amari Cooper. I see a little Devontae Smith, a little bit of it there, but yeah, that's
And that's just him
if you're
now.
compared to that, you're gonna be just
Like
fine in the NFL.
if he adds, let's call it I think, 10 pounds of muscle every year is not out of the question. I mean, we don't know what kind of frame he's going to end up with, genetics and everything, but say he puts on about 20 to 25 pounds of muscle, He gets faster, stronger. Like, are we looking at another like almost Julio esque type of player at that
It
position?
could be.
More
Yep.
like you know what I mean. Um, but really, yeah, sky's the limit for him. Uh, his dare I say he'd be one of the top draft picks today at 17 years old. Like to do that against Georgia's DBs, and we all know what like the two plays that he had, right? The touchdown catch, but even the catch before that, I thought was equally as impressive. I mean, yeah, this kid is something else.
That touchdown catch was ridiculous to go
Yeah,
up over the defender and then
stop.
stop, spin, and then turn on the burner. Like that's I don't even know if you can teach that. That's just
Yeah,
you just got it.
yeah, I agree. But as a whole, Matt, like I would say, Kalen, it's the bore.
Kalen DeBoer,
I think
that guy, man.
shoot, what a handoff from Nick Saban to him, right? I think that there were a lot of questions that were going to be asked about him, but I think they've answered the bell thus far, you know. Now they're ranked number 1 in the country, deservedly so, I will say. But I think they're the team to beat right now in college football. A lot of you never know with college football nowadays how which team is going to pull off the upset, but I think handedly Alabama so far is probably the best team in the country, um, no doubt in my mind. So,
I think,
um,
yeah, this is a heavyweight fight. And I think when I was watching this game, I was looking more at the quarterbacks. I think that's the marquee matchup. Two, you could say Heisman Trophy candidates. You could say two NFL prospects at quarterback dueling it out. But for me, Jalen Milroe kind of knew what I was going to get from him. He delivered. Obviously, he hit the big throw late in the game to Ryan Williams to give them the lead after what would have been a catastrophic loss, I would have said. But I look at Carson Beck, and I think his physical traits are what NFL scouts are kind of drooling over. Right, he has the body. He has a good arm. I think the size is there. He can move around a little bit. But the thing that I was looking at in this game, it's like the mental. I was not impressed, honestly, with Carson Beck in this game because I looked at his track record at Georgia. When has he had a game that he's had to be that guy and say, "Okay, we need you"? Like I always say this, you just need a game or two. There's always going to be a game. If you want to be a champ, you got to be that guy. Got to be that guy. And last year, what is the game that he lost to Alabama and Jalen Milroe? That was the matchup. He lost to Jalen Milroe, obviously Nick Saban led team, but they didn't put up enough points. I think it was like 24-20 or something. But that was that one game they lost. Every other game they played, blowout. Managed the game. He did his job. He did what he had to do. And that's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's just how good Georgia is. But when there's these games, you play the Alabamas, you go into the college football playoff, you're going to go up against good quarterbacks in college football, and you're going to have to outduel them. And the mistakes that he made, that's not impressive. That was a disaster. He was a deer in headlights. And I was like, this is not what NFL scouts want to see. When you're going up against a marquee guy on the other side, and Jalen Milroe, he threw one pick. It was a deflected ball that got tipped. But you don't think scouts after this game are like, okay, this kid, do I dare say it? I see a little bit of Lamar Jackson potential in Jalen Milroe, maybe with the running game. Jaden Daniels S.
I
Can
think
he
he needs
be
to
that?
polish the passing game a little bit more, but
Yeah, and I think Lamar had that problem too, right? He developed into a respectable passer in the NFL, but going into that, what was the thing that scouts? It was his mobility, his legs. So it's like the Jaden. I think Jaden was a little better passer too, but I think you kind of get to see Jalen Milroe match up. But then Carson Beck, I just was not impressed with the turnovers. He had a huge fumble late in the game. He got picked off to end the game. Like, yeah, he made a comeback, but how much of that, looking in hindsight, is Alabama just sagging off in coverage? You're up 28 to nothing. You're up 3 scores. Don't give up the big play. And to his credit, he took what the defense gave him. But I just think, man, the mistakes that you made in this game, four turnovers, and you lost by 1 possession. That's the story right there. Like I think that's something that, man, Carson Beck, he'll have his chance again. He will have his chance again. But I'm just saying, this first test this year, it's like, bro, this is your moment to show why you are an NFL caliber quarterback. And just for me, not meant for me, I think, if I was picking him. I think he's more of like a late first, second round kind of guy. I think. I haven't seen that from him. So I need to see him be able to take that moment and carry his team to the finish line. But I don't know if you think the same thing. I mean, you were impressed with him, but
I
I
mean,
just I
in the
can't get
second
over the
half,
I can't get over. It's hard for me to get over the fact when you turn the ball over that much,
that's
and it's
fair.
like, got Alabama. They were literally toying with Georgia, toying with him. They called an engage eight. Do you know nobody ever calls engage eight unless you're playing NCAA football? Like that. Like that means you have literally no respect for your opponent because you got 3 guys in coverage, and you got what, 5 guys, 4 or 5 guys at least running a route. So it's obviously you're gonna have to get the ball out quick. So like I just wasn't impressed with how he handled certain situations, and that's what NFL teams are gonna do. They're gonna disguise coverage. They're gonna design blitz. Like there's a lot of creativity. So I just think I need to see more from Carson Beck in order for Georgia to be the national champs, because 12-team playoff, man, everybody's in the race, and more than likely a team's going to have a good quarterback on the other side. So if he's going to be that champ, he has to be able to match him mano y mano.
Okay. Um, yeah, we'll see. It's still early in the season, but I definitely think these two teams will be there.
It's the girlfriend, I think. He's dating the Cavender twin.
Okay, well that's our cue to move on. So we finished the regular season. The postseason is finally here. After today,
Yep.
the game's concluded. Both rocking our respective baseball teams tonight. So what a crazy way to end the season though, huh? I mean, a
Oh my
doubleheader
God.
for the fate of the playoffs. Arizona had playoff implications riding on these two games. But when it's all said and done, the Mets and the Braves are in. Arizona is out. So that will make both of last year's World Series contenders out of the playoffs, Matt. The craziness of the MLB year to year continues. So we will once
Yep.
again not have a repeat champion. Um, but I know you wanted to talk about baseball, so I'll hand it over to you and you can give us the rundown of everything.
Okay, well, you brought up the first thing on this list that we have, but the Mets and the Braves, I think it was probably the game of the year, at least, well, to this point. Game 161, technically, I guess, for them. But oh gosh, that was insane. Both teams have a doubleheader, needing one win out of the two to clinch a playoff spot for both teams. If any of those two teams sweep, the Diamondbacks get in, and the team that doesn't win is out. But I just think that game one was tricky, and I mean it from a managerial perspective, because I don't know. I was texting you. I don't know if you were watching, but I turned it on late because I was like, oh, it's 3-0, whatever. Okay, Braves, they're gonna win. And I just checked my phone. It's like, what the heck happened? It's 6-3. What? I just checked an inning ago. How did they score six? So then I turn on the TV and I watch from the bottom of the eighth, and then it's just like this roller coaster back and forth. It was like, wow. But I guess for your perspective, for the for the teams playing in this game, like how would you approach it as a manager? Because if you win game one, you got that in the belt. But then if you lose, it's like, when do you throw certain guys? You think? Do you think you just go
Well,
all out in game one?
I definitely think that my approach would have been you're going to go with whatever starter was, kind of in line or scheduled to start in game one, right? And you just trust that they're going to give you, extended innings, five, six, hopefully, and you kind of just navigate from there. But you also have to kind of take into consideration the score at the time. So obviously, I thought, Atlanta was in great shape in that game one. I wouldn't have changed
Or,
anything. Like for me, like you said, I'm trying to go out there and win game one. And if we win game one, that's great. I'm still gonna play my guys for game two because you still want a little bit of those, playoff caliber or intensity reps, you could even say, because essentially it was playoff games, right? Where they're fighting for their chance. It was almost like the play-in game from the for the
yeah,
NBA,
I guess
right?
so.
Essentially. So playoff, type of intensity, you want those reps in. But I still think, yeah, you're gonna try to win that first game because we all know how we've both played baseball. We're playing on the same team now. So we know like, those high leverage at bats can take a lot on you. And so to me, you just try to get those out of the way so that that second game you're playing free. You're not stressing, right? Because when, you know, you're down and it's a must-win game, right? Say you lose game one, game two is a must-win. I know these guys are professional athletes, but they're squeezing a little bit, right? They're squeezing that bat just a little bit harder. Their mind is a little bit more stressed out than normal. So you don't want to put your players in that position, I think. So I think you definitely try to win game one. I think depending on the score is gonna see what kind of guys you use, what kind of relievers you use. Um, but I don't know. That would be my approach. Is go out there,
Yeah.
try to win, and then see go
So I
inning by
think,
inning.
yeah, I think that's exactly the way I would have done it too. And I think that's the way the Mets did it too, because in that game one, the craziness, they're down 3-0, then they rally in the eighth, they take the lead, they go up 6-3. And then the Braves start to kind of put together a rally in the eighth. Obviously, we know they take the lead, and then, Lindor hits the home run in the ninth. But in that eighth inning, they bring in their closer, Edwin Diaz, and then he gets absolutely, I guess you could say, rocked by Ozzy Albies. He gives up the double. It was kind of wild. The command wasn't there. The velo is down. Um, and then obviously Lindor hits the home run. They take the lead, and now he comes back out for the ninth. I think that's kind of the tone, right? It's like he's throwing a lot of pitches today. I think he threw Saturday or Sunday a lot of pitches. So for him to just kind of empty the tank for this play-in game, I think it kind of says a lot to how they were approaching. Because I don't know, with the way that Edwin Diaz was pitching, yes, he's your guy. You paid him the big bucks, but he did not look crisp like how dominant Edwin Diaz normally looks. So give credit to Carlos Mendoza for, I guess, sticking with his gut, because that's a tough call to make. Kind of decisions that can get you fired, honestly, if it goes the wrong way. So kudos to him. But man, that game one was insane. Mets win that one, so they're in. And then game two, it's Atlanta who's kind of pressing, right? They need a win to get in. They do, but kind of for them now, I look back, They were kind of playing for the win in game one. They burn all their guys. They lose it. Game two, they're going to burn their guys. They throw Jimenez and Rizel Iglesias, their closer. So when have you ever seen a closer pitch twice in a day? And then, oh, by the way, yeah, you have to hop on a plane, go all the way to San Diego overnight, and then play a potential 3 game series to keep your season alive against the Padres, who, oh, by the way, have a pretty, I guess you could say, deep bullpen. So that's a tough thing to ask for the Braves. Like I know they won, but it's like, man, that I think that's a really, really unfortunate way to kind of get greeted into the postseason. Um, with that matchup. But they're injury prone now. Chris Sale has been ruled out, but we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about the wild card series. But let's talk about our teams first. Congratulations, I guess, to us because we both got the 1 seeds
Yep.
in our respective leagues. But I'll start with my team first, and then we'll go to the Dodgers after. But the Yankees, um, not the hottest way to end the season. Yeah, they win the division against the Orioles and then just kind of go through the motions against the Pirates. But I guess that's kind of the nature of how players react, right? You got the job done in a sense. You're just trying to survive and get through the finish line. And then the one thing that you don't want is injuries. And we get bit with a huge one. Anthony Rizzo gets hit on the hand during an at bat, fractured, I think, 2 fingers in his hand. Sounds very, very, very unlikely that he will sadly not be on the roster, at least for the divisional series. Maybe if they advance far to the World Series, he can come back, but I'm expecting him to not be on this roster, which sucks because he's such a huge piece for us. Even if he's not hitting, just his defense that he brings, and then I guess you'd say the quality at bat that he brings. He's not going to hit home runs. He hasn't been hitting home runs since he's been back, but it's just that veteran presence. And I think that's such a huge thing for any team in the playoffs that it's the veterans. It's not necessarily who's the most talented guy. I think veteran guys in the lineup, as much as possible, that's who you want to kind of ride on in these situations. I think that's the case for the Yankees because now they have to figure out, okay, we need a first baseman, and they're in this kind of position battle for left field. With obviously they bring up Jason Dominguez, he's the top prospect, and then you got Alex Verdugo, who's been awful offensively for the past few months, and then you just got guys that are kind of just bench players in this sense. But there's a lot of questions about who's going to start, who Aaron Boone is going to roll out there for game one. So if I was the coach, I'm going, like I said, I think I have to go with experience. And at least for first base, I think there's 2 options. It's Ben Rice, who is a rookie, who's kind of struggled lately when he was up with the Yankees. He got sent back down. I think it was like early September. He played the finishing of a AAA ball. And then it's either Oswaldo Cabrera, who's kind of the utility man. I think I have to go with Oswaldo Cabrera just because he's been there before. He's a young guy, but the experience there, he plays respectable first base. He's a natural shortstop, so he's athletic. It's nothing against Ben Rice, but I just think he struggled late. When he kind of got caught up, he was hot, kind of cooled off. It's kind of been a black hole offensively. But I think Cabrera, he's been in the postseason before. I'm going to trust that guy. And then really the big question is left field. So the Yankees, only the Yankees would think of something stupid like this. They have all these outfielders and they're all playing out of their primary outfield position, which is kind of absurd that they went the whole season doing that. But who is it going to be? Dominguez, Verdugo. And I don't know if Wade listens to this, but he might flip out if he hears me say this. I would do this, and hey, we're both outfielders. So I think you play everybody in their primary position. And what I say by that, I think Aaron Judge should play in right field. And I think you move Soto to left. I think you move Soto to left. And yes, there's the questions. Oh, but Yankee Stadium, left field is hard. Yes, it's hard, but he's still an outfielder. And I think the way that you combat that is your center fielder kind of like you just kind of got to shade a little bit. Like for us, if you're playing center field and you got a guy in left field that not really strong defensively, I'm naturally going to shade over to his side to give him a little bit of help, especially if I know my right fielder or my other corner outfielder can cover their ground or hold their own. So it's like I'm going to help the guy that needs it a little bit more if I'm the center fielder. With that being said, I think Trent Grisham should start in center. I think with what I've seen, he hasn't been playing that much, but I think he gives you something offensively. And I look at Dominguez, the defense scares me. And it's like routine plays. He looks like me in the outfield. Like we can't make routine catches. Like I can't have that in the playoffs. Like you have to be able to make the routine plays. He hasn't been hitting the cover off the ball. So it's like, can I put you in the lineup? Hard to say, right? Verdugo is a black hole offensively. So it's like, I can't have a liability there. Trent Grisham, I've been bashing him the entire season. But to his credit, when he's had his number lately called upon him, he's kind of come through, not gonna lie. The last game, 2 for 3, two RBI hits. One of them was a home run. I think right now, he gives you a little bit of something at the bottom of the lineup. You can put him ninth. He can bunt if you need to, right? He's a guy with speed. He can steal bases. A gold glove winner in center field, obviously. So just to be able to cover that ground and shade to cover Soto, that would be huge. But I just think the black hole in the lineup is a problem, and teams are going to be able to pitch around that and use that to kind of navigate and get guys out, which is in playoffs, every out matters. If there's like a weakness in your lineup, teams are going to expose it. And I think Trent Grisham, he gives you something offensively right now. So obviously Aaron Boone, I don't think he's going to do it, but I would go with that to start whoever is in the DS, whether it's the Orioles or the Royals. I'm throwing Trent Grisham out there. I think if it's 1 or 2 games, if he doesn't pan out, okay, then let's make the switch back to Verdugo or Dominguez. But I think he's earned a shot. And I think with the experience that he's had in the playoffs before, that plays something. So I want veterans in my lineup in game 1, especially with Garrett Cole on the mound. Because if you mess up when Garrett Cole is pitching, it's not good for your mental health because that guy is kind of intense. So I'm just saying, I think he needs to be there. But let's if I had to say one thing, we're lined up with the Orioles or the Royals. I think I have to pick the Royals if I was picking who I'd rather play. Something about the Orioles division opponent scares me. The Royals kind of have nothing to lose, but there really isn't that dominant pitcher that I'm like freaking out over. The Orioles have that with Corbin Burns. Their lineup is loaded. I think the Royals, they're very top heavy with Bobby Witt, Salvador Perez, and Garcia, but I think you can kind of navigate a little bit better. So hopefully the Royals and the Orioles go 3 games. They go to extra innings, 2 games, burn that bullpen, and then come into Yankee Stadium on fumes. That would be great. But at the end of the day, you're the 1 seed. This is your time to go get it because boy, you got to get out of the division series. I'm sorry. There's no excuse for the Yankees. But, we can talk about that later as it gets on into the postseason. But I'll give you the floor now. The Dodgers, another 1 seed. I did see that the Dodgers announced their playoff rotation. I don't know if I feel great about that.
Well, Matt, somehow this team scraped together 98 wins. I have no idea how. Fought injuries the entire season. Um, Pitching staff. Then we had guys, not really pan out, and we had some guys surprise us. But nonetheless, we made it to the one seed. We're gonna get Atlanta or San Diego, both teams that we are very, very familiar with. Um, Atlanta, the battles we've had with them in the playoffs over the past several years, and obviously the Padres are the scary one for me. Like you said, divisional opponent, and just have been playing really, really good baseball in the second half. And you brought it up, Matt. I mean, the starting rotation, compared to what it could have been, just just really uh just making me really anxious. I mean, Jack Flaherty has looked good, but not great since becoming a Dodger. He's had his moments, but I'm still waiting to see that lights out performance from him. Hopefully, he's been saving it for the playoffs. Then we got Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Walker Bueller, who has been up and down, but mostly down this entire year. Luckily, a little bit more up recently than usual. And I don't know if a lot of people that don't follow the Dodgers know who this is, but Landon Knack, he is a rookie. He will be starting in game 4. He has been fairly consistent. Um, so hopefully, he can hold his own there. But man, just thinking of what this it could have looked like, I mean, Glass now, huge, huge piece to not have. Obviously, I think Kershaw is still getting back to 100%. And then we lose guys, Dustin May tears his throat. Um, I don't even know how you do that. Yeah, he tore his like one of the something in his throat. And then Tony
How do
Gonsolin's
you do
still
that?
out. I have no idea. But Tony Gonsolin out, Bobby Miller, just scratch my head about that one because he was kind of the guy I was looking at this year to compete to be the ace of this team and just could never quite figure it out this year. Just really disappointing. Hopefully, he's still really young. So hopefully, he can fix some things over the offseason and get back to his dominant ways. But when it comes down to it, Matt, the pitching, it's only going to take us so far. We're going to have to out hit everyone. Like everyone we face, we're going to have to out hit, which is a little bit scary in the playoffs, but that's just how it is. I think the bullpen has they were also a little bit up and down this season, but most for the most part they've been really good. So, not too worried about the pen, but man, I am just so scared of the starting pitching, especially after how everything ended last year with, Kirsch and Bobby getting shelled, right? So, oh, yeah, we made it. It's going to be exciting to see Shohei play in the playoffs. But the one thing I will say, Matt, is they're hot going in, and I always say that matters so much. I've said it for the past probably like 10 years. The hot team is the one. Doesn't matter. You're the 1 seed. You're the 6 seed. Like if you're the hot team going into the playoffs, that is the scariest
Yep.
team. Which is why I know when we get to our predictions later, but that's probably how I'll base mine. But yeah, just gotta out hit everyone. That's just how it's gonna be. So
Well, I'll preview. Let's preview. Like I talked about the Orioles and the Royals briefly, so I'll give you a chance. You guys will probably play the Padres or the Braves, right? That's the matchup 4-5. I think on paper it looks like it's gonna be the Padres, just because
I want it to be Atlanta,
the
but
Braves got absolutely screwed with scheduling. Now injuries. I think Chris Sale was ruled out today pitching, so who knows if he even pitches in the wild card series, which is kind of unfortunate because he might have been a Cy Young. I think he might have been the Cy
I
Young
think he
winner
is
this
gonna
year.
be the Cy Young winner.
Yeah, so that's a huge loss for Atlanta. So the Padres have a pretty deep rotation and bullpen, and then you obviously know the bats at the top. are dangerous. Are you worried, I guess, that there is a potential
Of course
upset
I'm
with the
worried.
Padres
Of course
Dodgers?
I'm worried. I'm a Dodgers fan, Matt. Like all I know is playoff disappointment aside from the COVID year, right? But it's always like I said, it's always different when no offense to Jaden or anything, but when you're a team like the Mariners and we're just happy to be here type of thing, right?
Yeah, we,
Like
we don't
no,
we
no,
don't we don't
honestly,
cry when we make the playoffs. Like
honestly,
that, there's no
I
we don't
mean,
go viral for
hey,
that.
that's great, but like honestly, when you're a fan of a team like one of the better organizations, the Yankees, the Dodgers, if it's basketball, it's the Lakers, it's the Celtics, like you expect this is expected, right? So we just hit the bare minimum. Like if if we didn't even make the playoffs, it's worse than disappointment, you know? So with that being said, I am scared because we know how much pitching matters. We know how much starting pitching matters during the playoffs. And this rotation, I'll be frank, is weak. Like compared to a lot of these other rotations in the playoffs, you could argue the Dodgers probably have the weakest rotation. I mean, Yamamoto before he gets hurt looks like one of the best pitchers in baseball. You saw it firsthand against your Yankees, but he's been just slowly inching his way back. I don't even know if he's pitched 6 innings since he's returned. So, and Walker Bueller, who guy that's been there, done that. Um, it's good to see him kind of figuring it out later in the season. This past couple weeks or so, he's went on a nice little stretch, but oh man, like I'm gonna need to take some or like have a drink or something when I'm watching the game because my heart's just gonna be pounding from opening pitch until the game's over. So we'll see. I don't know. Confidence level, I'm maybe at like a 6, honestly. When you're a Dodgers Yankees fans, you just kind of expect to be disappointed at a
Yeah.
certain point. But I don't want to, I don't want to talk like that.
Yeah. Hey, but I will say, not to go back to my team, but the way the bracket played out, at least from my point of view, is pretty favorable in the sense where I was looking at, okay, the Yankees, we avoided Houston. We're out of their side of the bracket, which is huge because they were going to be locked into the three. So I was like, we need to get the 1 seed so they don't just win and then they're coming in feeling good and then we play them possibly cold, right? So I don't know how that's going to be, but I just didn't want to see Houston until the ALCS at the earliest, if not any, right? And then the really big one was the last day of the season. The Tigers, I think Scuball was supposed to pitch, but they clinched, so they're not going to throw him. So they save him for the wild card. They lose. The Royals win, so the Royals get the 5. Now they're in that side of the bracket with the Orioles, and then the Tigers drop to a 6 seed, so they play the Astros. So it's like, huh, that's like perfect. Because what did you just say? What's the scariest team to play? The hot team. Who's been the hottest team in baseball the last month? The Tigers.
Who would have
So
thought?
I don't need it. Like, and they got the best pitcher in baseball, you could say. Tariq Skubal, who's going to win the Cy Young for the AL.
Called it, by the
So,
way. Called it. We
yeah.
can go back.
Yeah, I said
I can't
Corbin
believe it. I got
Burns.
one right.
Gosh, yep. I got to give you your flowers on that. Zach Wheeler, come on, man. He should win the Cy Young too for that. I know. But that's like a match made in heaven because somebody's going to knock each other out there. And then the Guardians await the winner of that. Maybe they knock them out. Who knows? But you get to play a Royals team potentially that hasn't been playing great baseball late. And then obviously the Orioles, just kind of they haven't been hot. They've just kind of been kind of coasting a little bit. They haven't been slumping, but obviously they beat us in a series, but we know what they got. So it's not like we're scared of them. It works both ways. They know what we have. But it's like, man, just to avoid the Tigers and the Astros on that bracket is huge. So I'm feeling like I'm with you. I'm like a 6 because it's the Yankees. We're not the almighty Dodgers. We don't spend the big bucks like you guys anymore. So I'll say a 6. But I guess on that note, let's kind of preview quickly about the wild card rounds a little bit. So the first one, I'll just do the AL first. I just talked about it. The Tigers play the Astros. I'll let you go. Do you think you have a prediction for this one? Who comes out? This is a tough one.
You know what?
Experience versus the hot
Like,
team.
as much as I want to say the Tiger, like I'm praying it's the Tigers.
Me too.
I'm praying, but just realistically, Matt, like Houston, how many straight ALCSs have they been to? Like,
Like
how can you count them
seven.
out? We talk about how much experience matters? Maybe they surprise everyone, and I hope they do. But if I had to pick one for this one, I have to go with Houston.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I think it comes down to game one. If the Tigers win with, they have to win with Scooble. Like anytime he pitches, they got to win. So they have to win game one. And then I think, okay, then Houston might start to feel it just a little bit. And then you got two cracks at them to basically everybody else except Screwball is like in play, I think, right? You just kind of you play with chaos. Like you manage with a little bit of chaos if you're AJ Hinch, who obviously I think he wants to win because that's his old team. So I think if they win with Screwball, they have a chance. If they lose that first game, it's a Houston gonna sweep them. I think it's a wrap for that. But we're on the agreement with that. And then Baltimore and Kansas City, winner gets to go to New York. I'm going to lean towards Baltimore just because I think they have just enough pitching, and I'm not sure about the Royals lineup keeping up with the Orioles kind of healthy, you could say, complete lineup now. But I think the Orioles win. I'll say in three. I'm hoping they win in three at least to give us a little bit of wear and tear on their bodies before they come to the Bronx.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably have to go with the Orioles too. Same reasons you said.
All right. And then Mets. Okay, we got National League. Mets and Brewers. Winner goes to Philadelphia. This is where I'll let you go
Oh,
first. I'll let you go
okay.
first.
Well, I just think that I don't know. I like the Brewers. Like I really like the Brewers. Um Give
Brewers
me
are
the
a
Mets.
dangerous
Give me the
team.
Mets. Give me the Mets. I'll take the Mets. I just think they're playing well. Um Francisco Lindor is just insane. So
Yeah, that's the only reason why I would pick the Mets. And I'm just a little bit concerned just with this wild card thing. Like it's just a physical toll on your body, you know? The pitching staff just you're playing four straight games basically of just back against the wall baseball in a sense. And is their lineup clicking on all cylinders? Hard to say, but Lindor has been a carry this year. But the Brewers, man, I think the Brewers are a sneaky team. They're very sneaky. I like their pitching in the back end. They just somehow always have good relievers. It's just like a farm system for relief pitching in that for that team. So I think the Brewers win that series. And then the last one, probably the one that you'll be paying attention to the most. Padres, Braves.
I
I think this is an easy one for me. It's the Padres,
think it's the
just from
Padres
health.
too,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I hope Atlanta wins, but I just
Yeah.
think the Padres are playing so good right now.
All right. That's that's the wild card round. But I guess before the postseason officially starts, it's gotta be we gotta do the World Series, man.
Okay,
Who's your
Dodgers, Yankees, let's do it.
Dodgers Yankees? You
Oh
think
yeah.
this is the year?
Well, who from the AL is gonna beat them? That's like what I'm saying. Like the Dodgers, we got some we got a tough road, I think, ahead of us. But
That's why see the fan in me obviously wants to pick the Yankees, but it's just I'm a Yankees fan. I expect the worst thing to possibly happen. And I'm like, I'm just so scared that the Astros are gonna win. Like honestly, like I'm
Oh,
just so scared.
God, don't put that stuff out into the universe, Matt.
It's reverse jinx.
No, that's don't even don't utter those words.
but
Yeah.
I'm scared that they're gonna win. But if it's not this year for the Yankees, you got Juan Soto. Yes, Rizzo is down, but the AL is the weaker side, I think, this year. The Guardians, they have a great bullpen, but their offense does not scare me at all. You got Jose Ramirez, Steven Kwan, and Josh Naylor. Everybody else, I dare you to beat Garrett Cole. I dare you to beat Carlos Rodon. If not, if you guys do, then okay, you guys deserve to win, go to the World Series. But it's got to be the Yankees for me, honestly. I just think this is almost now or never for them. And then the NL, I mean, it has to be. I really want to say Dodgers, but your guys' pitching just scares me. And there's something about the Phillies.
That's
I think
fair.
that's the Titan matchup. I really want to see it. I think that's
Yankees, Phillies. That'll
honestly
be good for ratings.
that's the in terms of baseball, that might be the World Series matchup of like the two best teams technically on paper, the Phillies and the Dodgers. I really hope that you guys match up for selfish reasons because I will probably see a game. So that would be exciting. But as a baseball fan, you want to see the best teams play and compete. And I want to see that game or that series go to seven. I think baseball deserves a series like that for the Phillies and Dodgers. But the pitching that the Phillies have with Wheeler, Nola, and Ranger, just those three at the top, it's a pretty tough mountain to climb, especially for the Dodgers who have been ravaged by injuries. So sadly, I'm gonna go Phillies, Yankees in the World Series. But you got Dodgers, Yankees.
Of course. Give me Dodgers,
All right.
Yankees. Let's do it. Lock it in.
I hope so because if the Dodgers and Yankees make the World Series, we have to do something.
Yeah, for sure.
We've been waiting for that for what is that, 8 years now?
Hmm.
8 years. So hopefully that can be the case. But
Man, we've known each other for 8 years.
yeah,
Oh my God.
2016, right?
We're old.
Yeah, 2016, right? When you peer pressured me to
I
drink
guess so.
at the Willows, that was
Whoa,
like eight.
whoa. Can't be flying around accusations like that, man. Come on.
Oh, yeah, 8 years. It's been 8 years that we've been asking for that. So let's hope it comes through. Anything else? I think that's it for baseball, right?
Nah, I'm good. I think we can wrap it.
All right, let's do our quick hitters. So, by the way, we'll do Foolish Fool. I'm officially renaming it to the Jerry Jones Award. After with myself,
God.
it has to be the
Bro,
Jerry Jones Award.
Jerry's gonna send some guys to come get you, bro. You better watch out.
Oh, cool, because that means I'll get to see him in person, and then I can tell him my business because I have a lot to say to him if that ever happens. So maybe that's a good thing. If he can come send his chopper to my house, fly me to Dallas, hold me hostage at his office, I will gladly have no problem being there to speak my mind for the rest of Cowboy Nation. But in other words, the first Jerry Jones Award, I guess, slash Foolish Fool, is going to go out to Major League Baseball, in particular, the schedule makers. I think it's just not fair, speaking from an unbiased perspective, for Braves fans, Mets fans, particularly those two fan bases, maybe the D backs, but Mets and the Braves playing a doubleheader, both of them needing wins to get in the playoffs, and then have to go play a 3-game series the next day after. I think that's just bad scheduling. And the one way I would have looked at it is they were playing each other last week. They said they canceled it because of the rain or the weather. Why couldn't you guys have played that doubleheader then? Because they played a game and then they decide let's cancel the game the next day after, or the 2 days after. So why couldn't you guys play a double header the first day? And then if it comes down to it, you play one game today. I just think that's so unfair for them and setting them up for success in the playoffs. Because now a team like the Brewers and the Padres, they're getting a pretty diminished, physically worn out team. So that's a huge advantage for them, disadvantage for the Mets and the Brewers. So I'm standing up for those teams. I think the schedule makers did them dirty on that one. So MLB, you guys need to do better on that. So you guys are the foolish fools slash Jerry Jones Awards winner this week. Because of Ely made Jerry Jones another award, honestly. Like, God, he's so easy, but it has to be his award now. So it'll make it easier when he's nominated next week or the week after.
Okay. My fans tribute this week, Matt, the Dolphins fans across the world. Just because I know we're all going through it right
Just
now,
the people in Miami and you.
but Dolphins fans, I just want to say I am a newly minted Dolphins fan. So I can't imagine the pain and suffering you guys have gone through, especially for the past, what is it, 21 years now, to not even have a single playoff win. I can't imagine that. But I'm with you now, and I will share your pain. I am committing myself. If I had like the hat, I'd be like committing myself to the Miami Dolphins. Even if Tua leaves, I will still be a Tua fan.
What?
I will
If Tua
still I
leaves?
will still be a Tua fan.
Wow.
No, don't. So hear me out. I'll still be a Tua fan, right? I'll always follow him wherever he goes, but I need to have a team. I'm in my mid-20s now. It's time for me to pick a team. So go Fins, baby. Fins up. Let's do it. I'm ready to suffer and share this pain with you all. So yeah, I will be joining the Miami Dolphins fan base. So
All right.
bring
Breaking
on the
news on the
tears.
podcast.
Bring on the tears. But that's all I got.
All right. Welcome to the life of misery. That's all I can say. Because I can relate. But okay. What is the last one? Sports Fat. Recording on September 30th. I'll go back to 1980 when Oakland outfielder Ricky Henderson set the American League stolen base record with his 97th stolen base in a
Jeez.
5-1 win versus the White Sox. He broke Ty Cobb's mark before that of 96. Boy, how times have changed because I don't think we're ever going to see that ever again. Even with Shohei's great 50-50, he was about halfway there
Yeah.
to Ricky Henderson, who is probably the greatest base stealer and leadoff batter of all time. So, also on that note, shout out to the Oakland Athletics.
Oh yeah. That's
Great
who that's who I
last.
should have done my tribute for. Yeah. Shout out
Okay.
to the A's. Shout out
Shout
to
out
the
to the
A's
A's.
fans. Man, you guys deserve better. Oakland deserved better. I'm sorry for what happened to you guys. If you want, the Dodgers are taking new fans, so you know, come on down. I'm sure it,
Well,
it might make you a little sick to your stomach, but hey, the more the merrier. We need to grow
I
the
think
fan base.
they would either follow the team to Vegas or they would just go to San Fran to be Giants fans. It's right there. It's like in the Warriors. They're not Golden State in Oakland. They're the San Francisco Warriors in a sense. So I don't know. But yeah, shout out to the A's, man. I wish you guys stayed in Oakland. The Coliseum is great, especially for Yankee fans. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it is in Vegas in like 4 years whenever they build the stadium. But I think that's it, right? For this pod.
Yeah.
You can close it out for us.
All right. Yeah. Well, thanks guys as usual for listening. We appreciate it. Well, we're about to hit our sports trifecta pretty soon with basketball, football, and baseball. So it's always the busiest part of the pod every year,
Yep.
October time. So stick around. We got lots of good episodes coming out. Thank you guys for listening as usual. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys